inclusion who could help to achieve economic growth and development, and we mentioned financial literacy. It is the last Friday, the month of May 2025. We thank God for the gift of life, for keeping us safe. I'm excited to be here today, welcoming you to another episode of our program series, Financial Inclusion and Economic Development, on Amorgate Radio Communications. I remain your host, Titilola Ogunshono. Last week, we had with us Mr. Ibrahim Agiri when he spoke about the relevance of financial inclusion to small, medium enterprises growth in developing economies, where he shared various insights that were quite valuable. And I recall that when we're talking, I said one of the things that we'll look at in subsequent episode was a concept very important, that was also necessary for financial inclusion who could help to achieve economic growth and development, and we mentioned financial literacy. So in today's rapid and ever-revolving global financial landscape, the need to have an understanding of financial concept, product, services have become necessary and crucial for achieving financial stability and security. And research have revealed that financial literacy plays a crucial role in enhancing financial inclusion and reducing poverty rates in a nation. Thus, financial literacy has become a fundamental skill that could help individuals, businesses, even nations navigate through the complexities of finance, take informed financial decisions that would increase the level of financial inclusion and thus will increase the level of economic growth and development. Since we've seen that financial literacy is a must-have skill, for individuals in a nation. Thus, today we will be discussing the topic financial literacy as a catalyst for financial inclusion. So we'll be discussing the concept of financial literacy. What does it mean? We'll be looking at various components of financial literacy, the role it plays in an economy, in a nation. We'll be taking statistics across the globe on financial literacy as well on today's episode. So let's consider the various definitions of financial literacy. It means the ability, to have the knowledge and skills needed to make important and efficient financial decisions. According to Investopedia, it is one's ability to understand and effectively use various financial skills, including financial management, budgeting, and investing. Okay, so once you have the skills, you have basic knowledge about this, you are talking about financial literacy. According to CFI, is the cognitive understanding of financial components and skills such as budgeting, investing, borrowing, taxation, and personal financial management. Okay, so it's ability to know how to do basic budgeting, ability to know investment platforms, basic principles of investment, borrowing, taxation, personal financial management. So that is what we talk about, what we mean about financial literacy. Okay, so it means that when a person an individual lacks these skills that we have stated, such a person is termed to be financially illiterate. So is it possible for you to have formal education and still be financially illiterate? Yes, the answer is yes. Or could you still be financially semi-illiterate? The answer is yes. Okay, so we'll go on and we begin to check all of these things as we go further on today's episode. And let's even consider the Central Bank of Nigeria's definition of financial literacy, which I like, is the possession of knowledge and skills by individuals to manage financial resources effectively to enhance their economic well-being. I like this definition because it's your ability as an individual, in a particular society to able to manage financial resources. How do you manage your financial resources? How do you save? How do you invest? How do you manage debt? How do you manage taxation issues? How do you optimize the financial resources at your disposal, because the more individuals grow in an economy is going to have a positive effect, multiplier effect on the economy. And I like this definition by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And there's another report that I saw, that stated that the CBN report that we have about 38% of Nigerians that are financially literate, while some other reports will give you less than 50. So it means that we still have a long way to go, but we will get there. And if we go a bit around the globe, on the average data on financial literacy according to World Economic Forum as a 2024 index revealed that financial literacy in the US in the past 2 years, and research further revealed that most Americans were more comfortable with financial knowledge of borrowing, savings, consumption, but were not really confident with understanding financial risk. So when you talk about financial literacy, yes, do people know basic concepts about borrowing? Do they know basic concepts about savings? How they consume, the consumption patterns? Yes. Another element that is also important to understand is also financial risk, because risk management, identifying your risk, be able to analyze what this risk are, and you have to know, it's what you know that you can actually hedge and mitigate. So it's also important. And going further, there's another report by S&P Global Finlit survey. It's revealed that financial literacy varied across the European Union. On the average, about 52% of adults are financially literate, while Northern Europe are the highest figures, which includes countries like Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, Sweden. And where we had 65% of citizens that were actually financial literate. But these figures, are actually lower in Southern Europe, the likes of the Greece. We had about 45%, Spain about 49%, and we had the lowest in countries like Italy and Portugal, still around that, still within the European Union. And results also revealed that countries that joined the EU in 2004 and beyond, they also had quite low figures in terms of financial literacy. We have Romania like 22%, the lowest, that was quite the lowest in that region in that report. We have Cyprus about 35%, and we have Bulgaria also about 35%. So we realize that even in a particular region, the level of financial literacy also varies. And if you look at it again, we need to look at the level of development in those countries around that region. And research has proven that the more financially literate people are, the higher the level of economic growth and development in such countries. So what are they doing right? We'll still go further to look at that, if not on this episode, subsequent episodes. I hope we get there this episode. And even looking at among BRICS countries, the likes of the Brazil, India, China, SA, realize that we will still have disparities among these countries in terms of financial literacy. The range from 24% to 42%, like the ones we have in SA. So financial literacy across the globe is a global concern, because research has proven that there's a need for the people to optimize, have knowledge about optimize financial services, because the more they can optimize it, they'll get included in the financial space. So a catalyst for financial inclusion is financial literacy. And financial literacy, once it is high, the likelihood of financial inclusion should be high. It's more evident, and definitely you can talk about economic growth and development. So let's look at the various components of financial literacy. We have said it's understanding financial services, understanding financial concepts. What are those concepts that the components of financial literacy that you should understand, that the layman should understand, that basic, that you should understand as an individual, that you should understand as a business or as an entrepreneur, because we know that the SMEs provide majority of the jobs. So the more financially informed that they are, the better job opportunities that you have in a country. So the first component I'm going to start with, not really majorly under of importance, but I'm going to start with budgeting, because if you do not get your budgeting right, if you are not disciplined to stick to your budget, having everything planned out, then you can't even talk about other things. You can't talk about savings. Okay, and one needs to understand budgeting. You need to manage your income properly. I always say that most times when people spend unnecessarily and cannot save, it's because there is no plan in place. I always say, most people say accountants are stingy. No, they're not stingy. They're only disciplined. Okay, it's financial discipline. So you have to be financially disciplined, and you have to stick to it. So you need that financial discipline to stick to it, because that would affect even your financial health. Not just your physical health, it's going to speak to your financial health. And budgeting means that you need to cut down on unnecessary expenses. You need to put a figure to everything. The way we plan our day-to-day activities, you need to plan your day-to-day expenses that way. There are some expenses that are fixed. There are some expenses that come on a daily basis. There are some expenses that you just budget for at the end of the year. There are some you pay quarterly. So you need to put everything down on pen and paper. People say when you fail to plan, when you fail to plan, you automatically planning to fail. So you need to be deliberate about it. And there are various methods that you can use. I would say just sit down, think of what your expenses are. We have your needs and your wants. So most times you say stick to your needs, but the truth is sometimes you also have to make provision. If you don't make provision for your wants, you end up not even getting anything done. So we talk about, I saw it somewhere, I stated the 50-20-30 method. So you're saying that out of your income, set aside 50% of your take-home income, for those working. Just take it for your needs. Those are things you need, for survival. Take it out. Now, some people will say 50%, take 50% all that. No, the 50-30-20 says, okay, we know that some things are not necessary for survival, but you actually need them. Okay, you want to go for another postgraduate studies, for instance, you want to go for acquiring another skill, then take out 30%, stay within that budget, 30% for that. But you must make sure that the 20%, we said the 50-30-20, the 20% would be for savings. So do it that way: 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% for your savings. We also have the zero-based method. Now, what the main thing about the zero-based method is that state out everything, all your expenses. State out all your revenue income, your revenue sources, the income, and make sure that any money you take out in terms of any expense, just ensure that every currency is intentionally used. So you must make sure that everything, if you have $10,000, ensure that in the last dollar you can account for it. Take it, just ensure. That's deliberate budgeting. Some people say I spent up to $20K this month. I don't even know how I spent it. No. If you had budgeted for everything, now at times when you have to be flexible as the need could arise. Even as economists, we say that you owe money for transactionary purpose, precautionary purpose, speculative purpose. There's some unforeseen contingencies, but when they come up, it will be once in a while. It must be budgeted for. Stay within that, and it will help. Okay, and we also have the envelope method. The envelope method is just simple. It means that put all of your expenses into various categories. So once you put them, they can mark in terms of the importance. And I always say that anytime, even when you talk about the 50-30-20 method, I say that anytime what you spend is on recurrent expenditure, nothing to lay foundation for wealth, then you need to go back to revisit. Now, sometimes your recurrent expenditure, your operational expenses might be high. We can't take that away. But from every income that comes to you, you always remember that you need to save. And that will take me to my second component, because savings is a function of, even if you do not save, you cannot invest. That's why the principle of saving is very strong. So it takes me to my second component, of financial literacy is savings. As simple as it sounds, is very crucial in an economy, because we expect that your capital stock people would save, so that when you save and is within the formal system, then you can take away from the surplus side, put the deficit side. And even for you as an individual, when you save, you can save up to achieve, a project. You can save us to achieve a profitable objective. You can save us to achieve your dreams, as an entrepreneur. Now, what usually happens is that I've also seen people, when they save, we're talking about financial literacy here. When they save for saving's sake. It should not be like that. I'm just saving. I want to save for 10 years. You have to also remember the inflationary pressure. You have to also remember the time value of money. So never save without an objective. You must have an objective for saving. So that's why I always say, as consultant, Amorgate, that you must always have a strategic plan. When I speak to accountant, I said, look, if you don't have that strategic plan, there is no way you can talk about your strategic financial goals. Because once you have a plan as an individual, what is my goal as an entrepreneur? Then you can say, because I'm going to achieve this goal, what are my financial needs to achieve this goal? What will it take for me to achieve that? Then you can start saving. So I always say, save with an objective. That must be something you want to achieve in life. You can't live, because the more informed people are, the more dreams that people have as entrepreneurs, being innovative, being creative, then the country would grow, because there is no country or nation that can grow beyond the capabilities of its people. So it is important that you have a goal in mind. So once you have a saving goal, then you have to know the various channels of savings. Okay, we have the traditional savings account, we have the retirement savings fund, we have various investment, portfolios, and again you have the emergency funds. Okay, and emergency funds, like I said, that's some things that will come up. I always say save. We always say save for the raining day. Okay, but I always say that save and save for a bright future. Save to create wealth. Save to enable, generational wealth, because that's the foundation of it. Okay, and one thing that I've seen is that most people know about mortgage, they know about the real estate, but other ways of savings. Okay, you can fix your money in the bank for a short period of time when you are not even clear about your saving goal. But there are ways you need to find out, those channels of saving. I mentioned some, there are a whole lot of others. Now, one thing that is clear is that financial discipline is crucial. Now, what people do most times is, we say pay yourself. It's not always easy, but I will say something. Consistency is very key. Consistency is key. It's not about, when I see people say, I'm going to spend 50% of my salary, I'm going to spend 50% of my income, of my profit, it's not going to be realistic. So start small. It's about consistency. If I'm going to start with 2%, 5%, or 10%, it looks more realistic, being consistent with it. Now, if I start with even 5%, if 5%, if my income is $1,000, will be different from it's still the same 5%. But when my income increases, I have more to save. But that percentage is important that you stick to it. You can review, but I always advise that you start small, and you must be consistent. Consistency is very key when it comes to savings, and you have to be aware of various savings platforms, aware of the interest rate on this savings platform, because this will help you take efficient financial decisions about your savings. And remember, it's about having a goal. You must define your savings goal, and the savings goal, I expect that will be tilted towards investment purpose. And that will take me to my third component of our financial literacy today, which is investment. For investing, when you save with a goal, I expect that when you save with that goal, you are ready to invest. And it's important that you know the various investments. I said we could be financially semi-illiterate, not fully illiterate, okay? Because sometimes we feel that these banks do not give out facilities, but they do. You know that once you are aware about this, I know that if I save up, recently I found out a country, even for developing countries, we know the developed nations, have gotten it right in terms of the mortgage facilities, but even in developing countries, we have mortgage banks still giving out loans. In fact, they give out as high as 70%. You do 70-30. You just need to have 30% of equity contribution. And it's quite flexible. Yeah, the interest rate, might not be competitive like developed nations, but it's still fair. And they want you to have a skin in the game. So it means if you are saying that you have a property of close to maybe 10,000 euros, or it's about 20,000 USD in a developing nation, you need to give them 30% of it, and they finance 70%. So once you understand these various, the role that the financial institutions play, in this partnering with you in investment opportunities, then you can latch on to it. But if you do not know, you will not be able to, fully optimize these opportunities out there. In fact, there are other ways you want to invest in the financial space, the financial market. We have the capital market where you can invest. We have the money market where we can invest. And I recall that most times when I talk about the money market, some people don't even know. They don't know you have the commercial papers, they have the COD, the treasury piece. So these are places, the more financially informed that you are, then you know that there are various ways where you can invest. It depends on what your investment plan is. Is it short term? Is it medium? And even for those in that financial space, once you are aware that you want to raise money and you want to invest, in new investment opportunities, and you need the finance. There are ways to raise this fund. So investing is important. You must understand the various investment channels, various investment platforms. You must even look at even the product and service sector. You must understand all of these things so that you can optimize it. So investing is but not just saving, but also optimizing investment opportunities. And of course, I will also mention tax awareness. Okay, you need to be aware. You need to be aware of your tax obligations as an individual, as a business. You need to understand the various compliance issues, okay, where you are. Then you must also understand ethical ways, strategies to reduce tax liabilities. I mentioned ethical, okay, legal ways to reduce tax liabilities. This is important. You need to know all of these things. And one thing that is also important that you need to know, an important aspect of financial literacy, and that is be able to, how do you build and improve your credit access? How do you build your access to credit? Now, if you know the prerequisite for accessing credit, they can work on that. One thing I've also realized, I remember I was speaking to one of our clients, and we were talking about the credit scores, and we have a particular country where the non-performing loan is as low as very low. People pay up. It's a culture, it's a cultural thing. So remember that in some countries we have that culture not to just pay bad debt. So I know that sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes you have unforeseen contingencies. Some things could happen, but we will say that what is important is when you have when you are willing to pay back. Ability, if you don't even have the ability, you pay back with time, but the willingness to pay back is also very crucial. So one thing that is important in building and improving your credit assets as an individual, as a business, is your credit score. Okay, credit score. You look at how well you have been paying all those loans, that you have facilities, you have had access to, the timeliness. So that would also help, because you are looking at having that strategic approach, okay, to optimizing financial services that would enhance and one's financial status. So you must know how to build and improve credit assets, and I've mentioned that credit score is very important. Okay, so it's mentioned various components of financial literacy. So what are the benefits of being financially literate. How does that help an economy? In what are the various dimensions, various perspectives in which it could help a nation when its citizens are highly financially literate? So what are the benefits? Individuals, businesses can take better informed decisions. Okay, you cut down on unnecessary borrowing. You can optimize your funds as an individual, as a business. You look at various investment platforms and see what works best for you. Okay, with that you can take better, more informed decisions when you're financially literate. Various funding options, what works best for you as a business, as an individual. You understand the risk. You can identify risk, you can manage risk, the risk management strategies. Definitely you can grow as a business, and that will lead to expansion because you're optimizing your resources, getting the best, you're avoiding litigation issues. Okay, and it's going to help the sustainability objective of your business. And what else can you do, which is important for us? We said it's because we said financial literacy as a catalyst for financial inclusion is that the more financially literate people are, okay, they're going to have trust, going to be trust and confidence in the financial system. Because sometimes when people are afraid of using this particular service, because it's come from a place of lack of knowledge or expertise in a particular area. So what will it do? It's going to increase financial inclusion and credit access, because when people are financially literate, they're financially informed, they can use this product, they are aware of the services, they can use it well, and that would help us have more people within the financial banking space. That would help bringing in the funds into the financial banking space, and even the financial services financial service institutions can play the intermediary function well, taking from the surplus sector, giving to the deficit sector. The deficit sector will be able to plow back into investment opportunities, and that will create more jobs. More jobs mean more income in the economy. More income in the economy, we need aggregate demand, and when that happens, you can produce more, and it leads to an increase in economic growth, and economic growth, the GDP of a country, because you are producing more products, you are getting out more of services, optimizing your resources, and when this happens, it's going to lead to economic growth. And if it is sustained across all sectors, where we don't have over dependence on a particular sector, is expected that it would lead to economic development. You see that financial literacy, as simple as that sounds, it plays a crucial role. It's the bedrock, is the foundation of how people can better manage their financial resources, how people can better optimize investment channels, savings channels, how people can cut down on unnecessary waste, which is important, unnecessary waste, and maximize their returns. And you have countries that have done a whole lot, financial. That's why you cannot overemphasize the importance of financial education campaigns that's been done in Rwanda, and becoming a country like Ghana, and these that encourage businesses to build a savings scheme. So when people understand what is in need for them, the wifing principle, it becomes easier. So we need more financial education across schools. Sometimes I hear, no, I'm a science student, so I don't know so much about finance. No, I'm in the arts, I don't know so much about finance. It's for those with commercial classes. It has got beyond that, because even as a medical doctor, you are going to run your hospital. You are going to talk about ROI, you are going to talk about expenditure, you are going to talk about how your income. You are going to look at all of those of fixed assets. It's fixed asset across any sector. Okay, so it's important that financial literacy is taken back to the schools, is taught, deliberately taught. And I like what the government has done, Nigerian government has done, even with the curriculum, where we have new courses, okay, in terms of financial education. I know one of the financial development in Lagos State that was introduced for 100 level student economics department. They're doing a whole lot, but I want to also see us having some things like that deliberate with our GNS courses. So no matter what you're studying in our schools, we are deliberate about teaching them early about financial literacy, okay, because it's a catalyst for financial inclusion. Yeah, I wish I could go into countries that have gotten it right, but we can't take that on today's episode. Okay, we'll look at it maybe next episode or subsequent episode, where we'll look at we'll talk about those countries that have gotten it right in terms of financial literacy, and look at what they have done to achieve this great feat. Okay, this is all we can take on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed yourself and found it valuable and insightful. I enjoyed myself talking about financial literacy because I'm passionate about this. I will not leave without dropping the quote of Alan Greenspan, which says, and I quote, "The number one problem in today's generation and economy is a lack of financial literacy." Okay,
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, I said I appreciate for trying to link me up, bro. Really. That's just nice. All good. I'm not really occupied today, so I just stay. That's it. Yeah, but no issues at all. Yeah, I would get one or two people to you. Let me kind of filter. So like they are not the best people I know because the best people I know are working with me already. But like they have worked with me before. Like, yeah, so like I can actually vouch for them still. Yeah. Um so I'll just get them to you. All right now. All right. All right now. All right.